Welcome to the Peggy Smedley Show, the podcasting voice of IoT and digital transformation, with your host, Peggy Smedley.
Welcome back, viewers and listeners. We are coming to you live from Liveworx. It's been great. This is our final hour of broadcast for the day, but we're going to be back again tomorrow. But look, I'm excited. My next guest passion lies in the intersection of business and technology for the past 20 years. It is great to have you back, Sasha. How are you?
I'm doing great, Peggy. Great to see you here.
So now, Sachin, the last time you were on the show, we were at CES, if I recall.
Yes, that was CES 2018. We had just launched Accessible Ollie, which was the world's first 3D printed self-driving electric vehicle for the aged and people with disabilities. So excited to be back here.
Now you're in a different role, so now you have to tell everybody. I didn't want to tell everybody your new role, so now you have to tell everybody what you're doing now.
Sure. So I'm now at EY, Ernst & Young, and I lead the IoT or Internet of Things business for the Americas.
I think that's exciting. Well, they're lucky to have you, and I'm even luckier to have you on the show today. So glad you could be here. So let's talk about what you're doing at Ernst & Young. So I think it's exciting times in the IoT space. As we talked about a couple years ago, back in 2018 at CES, exciting times. But tell me a little bit about your role now at Ernst & Young, what you're doing there.
Sure. So at EY, like I said, my role is to lead our IoT business, which is essentially as all the emerging technologies are converging with ubiquitous connectivity, the cost of sensors going down, and the explosion of data. Our clients are looking at how do we monetize this data? How do we compete with non-traditional participants in every industry, and how do we use technology as an enabler to drive new business models? So that's really my role, is to bring together EY's capabilities around deep industry and sector expertise, as well as combined with the technology expertise that we bring in, underlying all of that with the trust, the compliance, as well as the cybersecurity aspect, which is very, very critical, and bring all of those capabilities together to help our clients stay relevant in the disruptive world of today.
Looking at that, when you look at the clients, what are you discovering right now when you find that they discover are their most challenging times when you look at the Internet of Things today and you talk to clients? What are they finding to be the most challenging or not right now? Because I think we're at the cusp of a really good breakout in some ways, or in other times companies saying, I love this, but at the same time, it's the most frustrating times.
Yes, like you rightly said, I think we are at a tipping point where we will start to see a convergence of all these emerging disruptive technologies, and across industries, clients getting out of what they call pilot purgatory, which has been
pilot purgatory.
Yes,
good way of describing it.
Which has been the case for the last couple of years, I believe, because I think that there's a big shift in the mindset as well. The mindset over the last couple of years was a first to market mindset. Yeah. Everyone wanted to be cool by doing or implementing use cases with these disruptive technologies to make a big statement. But I think now we've reached a level of maturity where clients are looking at a first to scale mindset, not just a first to market mindset. And really business value and business outcomes should drive what they do with technology and not the other way around. So I think we've reached that tipping point, and as technologies like 5G start to roll out and scale over the next 18 to 24 months, I think we'll see a rapid shift in the level of maturity and the momentum of how these disruptive technologies get applied to solve real business problems, which is really a passion of mine. Like you said, I've always been fascinated by the intersection of technology and business, which is why EY is such a great fit for someone like me.
When we talk about this, and we've been asking a lot of guests who've come on the show today to talk about the digital journey. And as Jim Heppelman said today in his keynote, we're at this transition point of going from IoT to digital transformation. And as you talk about this pilot purgatory, it's a great way of describing it. Companies have to decide whether they are understanding this next evolution. Some companies have put a lot of money into doing this, and they have not had successes. And because of that, they're trying to figure out where did they fail, where are their best successes, where did they actually succeed, and move forward and say, look, we've gotten really great data. You know, we've talked about elevator companies and where they've succeeded. We've talked about other manufacturers who are getting data out of their tractors and, you know, fleets, and they're finding out how to do it. There's other companies that have said, we've tried to bite off more than we can chew. How do you help a company really know what they need to do that makes them feel that this is the next big investment that is right for them, with the right people of saying, this is what we have to do within the vertical market that they serve, and saying, how do we know where the next big investment comes in? Because now they might have made a good investment, which was right, but now making the next really big investment so that they don't feel like it's just throwing more good money after bad.
You know, I think you put it all in context, which is what I hear from most of our clients. I mean, clearly everyone's made a big bet on digital, but digital is not a destination, it's a journey, right? A lot of the clients that have made investments in digital or technologies like IoT in isolation, you know, have struggled. You know, quite frankly, it comes back to the basics, which is starting with a clear vision around how do you want to transform either a process or a business function for the market that you're in today, as opposed to, you know, just looking at where can I apply IoT or AI and then figure out how to create business value. So the business outcome should lead if and what technology you apply to achieve that outcome, number one. So I think having that clarity of vision and a roadmap supported by an upfront evaluation of ROI or a business case is critical. I think the second big piece that I see is companies that have failed have struggled to you know, implement some of the basics. What I often say is standardize before you digitize. So when you look at implementing a use case like predictive maintenance or you know, even intelligent process optimization for continuous manufacturing, any of these capabilities that are enabled by a combination of IoT, AI, and other disruptive technologies, is very critical to first look at from a process perspective, from an infrastructure perspective, investments you've already made today. Have you standardized them across your plants, or is one plant more sophisticated than the other? Clearly you'll have more success at the plant where you have a more mature level of investments on the people, process, and infrastructure side with more advanced use cases like predictive maintenance. But if you take the same use case at another plant where you don't have basic capabilities like an MES, and you're starting to jump to predictive or IoT use cases, you know, you will struggle with scaling even a use case where you've seen value in one part of your company. So you got to standardize before you digitize. The second mantra personally for me has been, you need to invest both in the right mindset and the right skill set. So where I'm going with this is, when you adopt a digital transformation agenda across the enterprise, in the end, technology is all about augmenting and amplifying human capabilities. And if you have that perspective in mind, you have to look at how can I train my existing workforce better. So that's the skill set aspect. The second aspect is the mindset. as I start to roll out new behavior, new practices with these new technologies, how do I adopt a change management program that can foster a culture of innovation so I can make this a sustainable journey of transformation as opposed to a one-time exercise? And when you look at manufacturing specifically, where talent is a big issue. We'll probably have 2 to 5 million jobs, according to the World Economic Forum, that will be unfulfilled because of a retiring workforce by 2025. It's becoming more and more difficult to attract millennials to come to manufacturing as opposed to going to more attractive industries like the technology industry and Silicon Valley. Third is, as the aging workforce retires, how do you onboard and train the new workforce coming in? And I think, again, if you use technologies like augmented reality, and Jim's comments this morning, I think on the money, where when you look at things like training, which historically have been in advance and just in case you need this, and making that shift with technologies like AR to very purposeful, in context, and mini courses that you deliver to your workforce with HoloLens and other capabilities that PTC, Microsoft, and others have developed to really onboard and train staff and really transfer the knowledge from the retiring workforce. So I think we have to look at a spectrum of all these building blocks to enable a sustainable digital transformation journey, not just applying a technology or selecting the best IoT platform.
So is it the HoloLens that's the disruptive technology, or things like that that's most disruptive? Is that what we have to look at?
Well, I think HoloLens is really a mixed reality headset that would deliver an augmented reality experience on a platform like Vuforia that PTC has, where you're essentially digitizing the physical world and helping people interact in real time by providing very contextual work instructions so people can actually follow them and do things right the first time, to put it simply.
So it's a combination.
It's
so you couldn't do it, and that's the thing that I wanted to get you to get to, because you couldn't do these things, and that's where people misunderstand things. They look at a product, but it's in combination, and that's what Jim was trying to say today. Yes. It's the really great partnerships that have made the disruption in the marketplace, and that's what he was getting at. It's the digital transformation has led to all of these things of making what's so disruptive today is where you get to AI and IoT and VR and AR. That led to digital transformation is because everything coming together in tandem is what's making it all come to fruition.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I think the point was, it's
CAD, PLM.
It's about smarter products. It's about smarter processes and smarter people. You have to look at all three dimensions,
processes,
as opposed to just one aspect. And that's where you will see the sustainable ROI across your digital.
So we should look at, going forward, people, processes, and the whole package.
Yes, I think
people, processes,
and products. Yes, again. That's why the entire spectrum of connecting your products so you can transform how you design products, how you apply things like AI to generative design, to real-time simulations, so you're building better products, and then with digital threads actually transferring that information across your value chain, so from engineering to manufacturing, how you make these products, and then how you operate and service these products, because you need the same information when you're making the products, when you're servicing them, so you know which parts to order when something goes wrong. The digital thread aspect is very critical, as you cut across smarter products, smarter processes, and smarter people, and you enable all those three dimensions as part of a digital transformation effort.
So if we look at the digital thread, we want to say the digital thread's enabling the people, processes, product for the digital transformation. So if we kind of look at that, that's what we're going for.
Yes, and I mean, underlying all of this is data. And as part of that, you have to, once you connect anything, obviously you're exposing yourself to a risk of cyber attacks. So the cyber security, data trust, and privacy are equally critical as you design any digital transformation agenda, because in the end, it's all about protecting this information, which is critical to the future of any organization.
So when you look at all of this, when we're talking about the people, processes, and products in the digital thread, are there specific steps then we want to tell manufacturers to take?
In terms of steps, like I said, everything starts with a very clear vision of the business outcomes.
Right.
And as part of that vision, developing upfront a roadmap of use cases that, number one, drive the most business value, number two, are technically feasible, because every technology is at a different phase in terms of its evolution. And then number three, the aspect of an ecosystem where you're co-creating and co-innovating with business partners and customers, because nobody has all the capabilities just by themselves.
Is there, in any one vertical, is it different, or all of them, I guess I should have asked, the same?
I think the ingredients are the same across each verticals. The recipes may be somewhat different depending on the challenges or the maturity of an industry vertical. I know you and I have talked about connected cars and autonomous driving before in automotive. That's a very different landscape compared to manufacturing, where again the factory environment hasn't changed much in the last 50 years. How do you take a 50-year-old plant and move them further along a digital journey compared to a connected car with 250 million of them actually being connected now? The challenge more is with the 350 megabytes of data they generate per second, how do I use that data to make that journey more productive, more safer, more engaging, more personalized, and then monetize that and drive brand loyalty as well. So I think every industry vertical has its own set of priorities, but the ingredients are the same, which means the recipes that you develop for the digital capabilities you need to thrive in that segment are different.
Are we going to be, because you talked about the shortage of skilled workers in manufacturing, which they've had this downturn before, and we're talking about it reoccurring again. Are we going to be able to use the tools, again, with AR and VR and mixed reality, to be able to properly train these potentially new workers or workers with these tools to be able to do the things like Jim showed on stage with Volvo, and to be able to do the repairs and be able to see things before they happen? Will that change and be able to alter the dynamics of what happens on the factory floor differently when we don't have the skilled labor that we once had, to be able to make up for that shortfall or that skilled or upskilling maybe of the new workforce?
Yes. I think it'll definitely have a huge impact both on training new talent as well as driving incremental productivity for your existing workforce.
Because we don't have that talent banging on a machine and making it work back in the old SCADA days. Exactly,
because even with a trained workforce, given the complexity of products today and the new technologies, and just how training works today, like I said, most of the training is in advance and just in case you need it. You could still make manual errors when performing an operation. And having a HoloLens-like capability and augmented reality with the instructions and a digital checklist in front of you guiding you will drive improved productivity, more accuracy, as well as if it's somebody new, again, train them to operate new equipment or perform new procedures more accurately than otherwise. So I think technologies like AR will really have a big impact on workforce productivity, onboarding and training, and that's a big part of the puzzle. It may not solve all the challenges, but definitely it'll have a huge impact.
What verticals do you think are going to be needing some of these technologies more than the others? Are there any that are going to change or be most disrupted going forward? I mean, we've talked about there's a lot of change that's needed on the horizon, manufacturing being one. Are there going to be some that are going to be more disrupted than others, or you think manufacturing is just going to change very dramatically? That's what we're talking about here, but when we talk about fleets, when we talk about, making medical devices, manufacturing, affects everything. When we talk about, retail, everything, all these products going into so many things, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think every industry vertical will be impacted by these technologies. The amount of disruption they drive depends on the maturity of these verticals. Manufacturing, for sure, I believe, we'll see the most significant change because, it hasn't changed over the last 50 years. The focus has been shifting manufacturing to low-cost countries, and a brownfield site hasn't changed much in the last 50 years. So we will see a big change from a impact of technology perspective in manufacturing compared to other industries, and that'll impact multiple verticals. Any vertical that is manufacturing, whether it's med devices or cars or any industrial equipment, will see a big impact.
Across the board, everyone I've interviewed has said the same thing. Brownfields are going to have to be updated, consistent. Every manufacturing vertical or every vertical is going to see it. But everybody's saying literally the same thing. But here's the thing. There's talk of an economic downturn.
Yes.
Talk about we're dealing with global things. Everyone's saying we're still going to not be affected by that. But we have to. How can, in an economy that we've seen nothing but upticks, how can we not be affected by it if we have a workforce that's not skilled? How can we not be affected by a potential economic downturn, a potential recession, when we've seen nothing but, and now all of a sudden we're seeing facilities starting to see, maybe for the first time, a slowdown. Manufacturing starting to see somewhat of a slowdown. How can we not be affected by it? Just because the fact is that they have to update their facilities, those brownfields, tools that have never been connected have to be connected? Is that what we're saying? No matter what, we're going to continue to see positive uptick because of the fact they've not been connected?
Yeah, with an imminent downturn at some point, because the nature of every industry is cyclical. So it's nothing new, quite frankly, but the investment in technology to get the visibility you need to react much faster to a downturn and at the same time react much faster to an upturn is critical. And that's the investment that's critical that all industries make so they can react much faster to an imminent downturn or an upturn, make the necessary changes, whether it's increase in capacity or cutting capacity where needed. Because again, a downturn may impact one part of the business or geographically one region while another region is growing or another business is growing. There are some companies out here that have more demand than they can sustain today. So even if downturn hits, they may still have challenges to meet demand. That's why I think investment in technology is not an option. You have to continue to invest. But at the same time, be very strategic about how you invest which is why the mindset aspect comes in, because it's all about being more agile and nimble so you can adjust accordingly.
Sachin, that's why I wanted you to answer that, because anybody watching or listening to this, is their first reaction is going to be, that's what I'm reading. Every article lately is saying there's going to be a downturn. I wanted someone to answer it that says, look, how do I react to it? That's exactly what you want to hear. Is you're always going to hear the naysayers out there. You have to hear the positive that says, what do I do? And the fact is, exactly, you are going to hear that. But if you are not reacting, if you are not looking at, if you are not investing in the right ways, in a downturn is when you have to be looking at technology. You have to be on the bleeding cutting edge, and that's where technology makes you competitive. And we just saw, and a digital transformation is what brings you to the forefront, brings you on the cutting edge and makes you competitive to actually withstand economic downturns. That's exactly what happens.
Exactly. And, again, not doing anything, especially in the disruptive nature of the world that we live in today, not doing something is taking a bigger risk than, investing in emerging technologies and building the capabilities you need to be a more agile organization.
And the interesting part of all of this is you're able to react and see things. Having the right data gives you insights that you never have before. You're able to react by seeing information that you never had before.
Oh, absolutely. When you look at, with all the trade tariffs and the geopolitical issues that are being discussed now daily, global supply chains are at a big risk. And technologies like blockchain that essentially make your supply chain data visible in real time to all the trading partners will make you more resilient to some of these challenges and allow you to flex capacity up and down in real time and make the necessary changes, give you the track and trace capabilities for your orders and the visibility you need to provide to your customers that you don't have today with old antiquated systems or manual processes. So again, you need to invest in technology to drive visibility and insights from the data, and that will make you a more resilient and competitive organization.
Isn't this that whole insight into, it's really trusting and having a real common faith in your real partners, in where you have the best partners, and it's that whole as a service kind of insight into your partners, whether it's in your supply chain, whether it's in the partners that you go to market with, that changes the dynamic that you just described.
Yeah, I mean, lack of trust comes from lack of visibility, lack of access to the same information, and then the lead time to get access to any of these things. So technologies like blockchain, what they do is essentially make the same data available to all trading partners that may or may not have had complete trust in doing business previously because of, like I said, information silos based on the antiquated systems they have today and manual processes that most people adopt because of lack of those investments. Once you have your trading partners on a blockchain network and have access to the same information, of course you can restrict access to information depending on the different roles the different partners play. Once you have access to the same information in real time, that's when trust is established. And once you have the trust, that drives business opportunity and scale.
Looking at it, what's the big advice you would leave or that you would tell all of these folks who want to take their business to the next level in manufacturing and say, these are things you need to do going forward right now in this economic time, right, that we're all living in right now? We hear a whole lot about partners in China, the whole global aspect.
Yeah, like I said, start with a clear vision and strategy tied to your business outcomes, number one. Number two, have a first to scale mindset, not a first to market. And number three, standardize before you digitize. And then, like I said, finally, you need both mindset and skill set to make sure it's sustainable.
Don't be afraid to innovate.
Don't be afraid to innovate. I think the theme for the conference was no limits. Clearly, there are no limits in the world of possibilities we live in today.
Are there any trends or anything that you're seeing that you want to throw out there that we didn't talk about at all?
Yeah, I think we covered all the key points in terms of trends. Like I said, it's the convergence of major trends that's going to continue to drive disruption as opposed to one particular trend in isolation. So when you look at globalization, you look at the geopolitical shifts, you look at the aging workforce, you look at the shareholder activism, you look at disruptive technologies, non-traditional participants. It's the convergence of all these things that's driving disruption, not one thing by itself. And I think that's what makes waking up and going to work exciting every day.
Love that. Sachin Lushan, you are the advisory service Ernst & Young. Where can our listeners go to get more information about what you guys are doing?
Well, you can just go to our website at ey.com and see everything that we are doing, or reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter. More than happy to answer any questions.
Love it. I hope you'll come back and chat with me again. All right, listeners, we are out of time for this segment. Stick around, and I'm going to give you a recap on all the day's events and what's going on. So, as always, this is the Peggy Smedley Show. I am podcasting live on all the things that are happening here at Liveworx. And stick around. I've got a little bit more to share with you right here. Tweet at me at ConnectedWMag. As always, this is the Peggy Smedley Show, the podcasting voice of IoT and digital transformation. Remember, with great technology comes great responsibility. I'll be right back after this short break.